Hello, my name is Ana Belén Ferrada, and today I'm going to talk about a brief discussion and an overview of my research proposal. First of all, it is important to acknowledge that here in Chile we learn English as a foreign language, which means that this is not the primary way we have to communicate with other people, and the input we receive is practically restricted. Consequently, as most students do not manage a high proficiency level in the target language, they usually prefer to use their mother tongue to interact with their peers when they are asked to work in pairs or in small group based activities. This is one of the main reasons why teachers feel frustrated and reluctant to use collaborative work, and they assume that the use of the L1 is detrimental for students to uh, communicate or to exchange their ideas, and that is harmful for their learning process. Given that the interrelationship between the L1 and the L2 is a common issue that most teachers face in their EFL classrooms, I considered it is worth researching whether the use of L1 is detrimental or beneficial for students to produce L2 spoken performances. The future outcomes of my research will be relevant to understand the role that L1 plays in the language classroom and the actions that teachers can take based on that role. For instance, on the one hand, if the results reveal that the use of the native language is detrimental for students or is harmful, teachers should consider or should design different methodologies to avoid and restrict the amount of L1 that students use during English lessons. And also they can design some strategies to make students become aware of the negative consequences that the use of the native language can have on their learning processes. On the other hand, if the results demonstrate that the use of the mother tongue is beneficial or is positive for students, teachers can assist learners towards the advantages of the mother tongue and encourage them to use it as a tool to scaffold their understanding, their exchanging of ideas, and the communication they have with their peers. The bibliography and the references, the literature that I have read so far made me understand a possible conclusion for my research question, which is to take into consideration that the L1 may be a positive tool for students while they are working in groups and when they are asked to produce oral performances. And also that the mother tongue can serve for different functions, that is to clarify vocabulary, to exchange different ideas, opinions, and beliefs, and also, which is quite important, to lower the anxiety that may arise from students' limited language proficiency. The data sources that I will use in my research will be interviews, classroom observations, and the use of artifacts. In this case, the analysis of artifacts, that in this case I will consider students' oral productions. Firstly, I think that it is important to interview students one by one, as I think that it is important to know their perceptions, their perspectives towards the use of the mother tongue. What do they think about the use of it if it helps or prevents them from producing spoken performances in the target language. And also, I think it's important to interview the groups after providing their oral performances, because in that way I will know if what students think about the use of the mother tongue, if they use that it was a helpful tool, if they think that they have to use this language one in groups, if it helps or not, if it prevents them from using target language. So I think that it's important to consider what the group think towards a native language. Considering the classroom observation, I think this is also fundamental to know what is the language that students are actually using when organizing themselves in groups, whether it's Spanish or English. And finally, the analysis of students' oral performances will allow me to know the role that the L1 played when students were organizing, if it provides them with a scaffolded tool to produce effective and intelligible oral performances. However, all of these methods have their weaknesses. For example, the interviews sometimes happens that students do not answer being sincere because they think that they have to answer what is correct for the teacher, or what is correct for the English lesson, or what is correct for the school. And in regards to the classroom observations, it will take a long time commitment, and due to the obligations and duties we have at school and at university, I think that it will be really difficult to analyze these observations in depth. And finally, in regards to the students' oral performances, I think that sometimes I have observed that some students are just witnessing what their classmate is doing. They are not working collaboratively, and there is just one student who is working. And so this will not provide me with the evidence to know if the L1 is actually being a detrimental or a positive tool in the spoken L2 production. That's all. Thank you and goodbye.